I genuinely cannot believe how good this free season pass tank is in World of Tanks, and of course you can pick it up as well and you don't even need the actual season pass itself. It is purely a free season pass vehicle, and we have 12 days to be able to complete it if you haven't already completed the season pass. But let's have a look at whether or not it was actually worth grinding out to get to level 100 to be able to pick up this specific tank, which is the Emil 1951, the tier 8 Swedish heavy tank that is very much similar to what you could expect from the Emil 1, but probably a better version of the Emil 1. There you go. Wouldn't be like Wargaming to introduce a premium tank that's better than the Tech Tree alternative. Never seen that one before. But more importantly, what is this tank all about? How can you use it? And yeah, let's have a look at how we've kitted this vehicle out to have some ridiculous games. This tank is very, very good, and I've always enjoyed playing it. It is superb in how it plays. But of course, this is an autoloader. It has 3 shells in the magazine with 360 damage per shell, being able to deal 1080 damage in its clip, which is yeah, pretty strong when you consider that this is a tier 8 vehicle, and when you're coming up against other tier 8 vehicles, 1080 damage is to steal over 2/3 of the enemy team's hit points, and that's if you're only meeting tier 8s. If you're meeting anything less than that, then yeah, you're stealing almost all of their hit points if you land every single shell. And you might be thinking, well, it's going to be difficult to land every shell, but no, 0.32 accuracy is what we have on this little Swedish heavy. And the great thing about this tank not only is the accuracy, but also its mobility. 45 kilometers an hour top speed allows you to mobilize all around the map pretty well. You got 15 power to weight ratio, which is actually pretty good. It's nothing outstanding, but it's definitely able to shift around the map. It does have a fairly long reload. You got 26 seconds to be able to fully reload, but as with all of these Swedish vehicles, it has 12 degrees of gun depression, allowing you to take a ridgeline. And yeah, the turret of this thing is rather good. As you can see, 180 millimeters on the flat areas of this tank that are well angled, which when you're using the gun depression become even more accentuated and therefore become even stronger. And so this turret is actually pretty good. Now, you will get penned by heat rounds from, you know, Jaegeroos and stuff like that, but pretty sure every tank in the game basically gets penned by one of those. So at its tier, it's very strong turret. It works really nicely. The cupola on the top of the tank that is basically non-existent is really difficult to be able to consistently hit. And yeah, there's some areas of this tank that can be penned quite easily. You do have the flat bit here, but it is quite a difficult shot to actually hit and probably not really worth aiming for anyway, since yeah, you can go for the side of the turret like this as soon as it turns its turret with 150 millimeters that isn't as well angled, and therefore you can pen this thing. But remember, don't go sticking out in front of this thing because it does have that powerful alpha damage that it can unload onto you. So yeah, it's a very powerful tank. But it does have pretty terrible hull armor, as you can probably expect with these Swedish tanks. But of course, it's all about getting hulled down, and we'll see that throughout the gameplay, so stay tuned for that. But what I really loved about this tank is the way we set it up. We went with the improved ventilation. This boosts a load of different things about the tank. It's not significant buffs to, you know, one individual area. It gives you just a holistic approach to the vehicle, and because of the fact it's an autoloader, you cannot put advanced loader. Therefore, you have to, you know, use that slot of equipment for something else. And so for me, I thought improved ventilation was a good way to get more view range, increase the reload. It's one of the only ways to increase an autoloader's reload, other than having the crew perk or the commander perk, whatever you want to call it, skill. But essentially, it's a nice little damage buff as well as a view range, repair speed, just loads of different things that are all very nice with having improved ventilation, even if it's only minor in a lot of areas. But advanced optics gives you that view range to be able to spot people or outspot them, because you can see here 471 meters in the way that we've set this vehicle up, which is very, very good. And of course, we're running gun stabilizer. This is to improve the accuracy. We want to make sure that every single one of our shots actually hits the target, because if you're firing off 3 rounds and only one of them actually manages to land where you're aiming, yeah, it's not going to be fun to have a 26-second reload to do 300 damage. And of course, talking about reload, the intricate reload of this tank is actually pretty good. 2.75 seconds. It's not too long, but it's not the shortest, so it's kind of in that middle range, probably on the higher side, but it doesn't really feel too bad because a lot of the time you can track and retrack opponents with this tank, which is very, very good. The damage per minute is kind of on the low side, but that's because it's an autoloader. Pretty much all autoloaders have a lower damage per minute, unless of course you're looking at some of the broken autoloaders, but that's the reason why they're broken. Either way, this tank, very, very strong. Let's have a look at the gameplay to see how it actually works in the game. Game number 1 then starts on El Haloof, and El Haloof is a very, very good kind of map to get enthralled with because of the fact that you can use your gun depression. Now, something about this game though is it's not ideal because we are in a tier 10 matchup. I'm sure you guys always love commenting about how, you're playing a tier 8 tank in a tier 8 game, but no, this tank is actually very good when you do get into those higher tier matchups. Now, unfortunately, we are running with quite a few premium rounds, in fact, mostly premium rounds, and that is because the standard penetration of this tank sucks. But because it's a premium tank, you can basically afford to pay for the premium rounds, and they will actually make you money in the long run anyway, so you don't really need to worry about firing premium rounds. And it was almost a not necessarily a must, but I would highly recommend it if you actually want to make this tank work, because if you don't, 210 pen can be a little bit annoying for the higher tier vehicles, so it's really, really imperative for those tier 10 matches, and it's definitely going to be able to help you out quite a bit. Now, what we do here is we do get a nice little 3 shots of damage early on in this game, even if one of them is just the finishing shot, allowing us to get 750 damage. Now, early game damage in World of Tanks is very, very good, and you want to be going for it. It's kind of one of those things that most people often kind of forget about, or they don't realize how important it is, and it really will excel your games because it not only means that you're not going to take any damage, but once you learn the spots, you'll kind of be able to create strategies for every single map based on those spots. And obviously, if you have a couple spots on each map, you can initially find one spot to at least give you some damage, and it's how most players with a ton of games are able to perform very well on all of the maps, is because they at least get a little bit at the beginning for free, or for the most part, most games will be getting some damage for free. But as you can see in this game, there is no one really pushing up on the left hand side, allowing us to now push into one of the best spots when you're trying to counter here, that also provides cover from any of the TDs camping at the back, and that is going to allow us to find a little Progetto 65, which is the tier 10 Italian medium, which is a little auto reloader, but unfortunately for him, he is not going to be able to use that auto reloader for very long, as our team quickly finish him off after we took a nice little 1,000 away from him, picking up nearly 2,000 damage so far. And this is the exact scenario you want to be in when you are playing in your auto loaders, especially one like this where you've got that ability to kind of get into various different locations. You could see me there going for the blind fire. We saw he was there. He's probably still there. Might as well go for that 3rd shot anyway, since we're going to take a reload before making any pushes, because there's no point in pushing when you're on a reload. Often people will do this, they'll get hit multiple times, the opponent will then pull back around the corner, and by the time that you're reloaded, you can't even fire anyway. So there is literally no point in pushing sometimes when you are reloading, other than to sometimes scare people off. Now, what we do here is we don't stop where we got hit, because if you stop there, all of the TDs in the base can hit you. Now, unfortunately for us, the Lerva does get finished off before we're able to plow out that last shell, but that's fine, as we did pick up a decent amount beforehand, and that is, yeah, not a bad trade since we're still on 1,000 hit points, and the game is relatively early on. There's still a few more hit points left to farm, and we find ourselves a nice little AMX 5120 who sat out in the open, allowing us to hopefully get one tracking shot into him, or maybe multiple damaging hits. And there you go, another couple of damaging hits. We are struggling to deal with the teams. The Type 4 Heavy just derps us there, not actually aiming at all. He can basically hit us anywhere. We don't have very much armor on the hull, which means he's going to splash us for like 400, 500, 600, depending on where he's going to hit us. With the top gun of that, obviously, and that allows us to, you know, be on 181 hit points, which is not great. But now what we can do is, given that the game is coming to a close, it's fine if we actually get taken out. We are purely after the damage, and if we can do that, that is awesome. But with 4 vehicles left on the enemy team and having 11 on our team, you know, the typical World of Tanks matchup, we can start making our way towards the enemy cap or towards the enemy tanks that are still left alive. We've got 3,761 damage done in this tier 10 game, and we've primarily fought against a lot of tier 10s. There haven't been a whole lot of vehicles to really be able to deal with, and you can see here we're able to hit this Centauro twice before he's able to even look at us, and given that I've got a nice little 4,500 damage, I'm pretty happy with this one. We're going to take a reload. This Centauro's probably going to get finished off rather quickly. So we pop our little enhanced combat rations, try and reload as quickly as we can, and we see ourselves 2 little Ruthlesses over here who hopefully we can get a shot into. I'm hoping this Centauro doesn't poke me. Even if he does, it's fine, because we've got, you know, it's the end of the game anyway. It doesn't matter if we get taken out, and we do get taken out. It was just worth it to attempt to get a little bit of damage, and maybe if I'd realised that the Ruthless was out too quickly, we could have actually swung around, but at the end of the day we still weren't reloaded anyway. So I guess I'm not taking my own advice as to not push when you're not reloaded. Either way, very, very good game in a tier 10 matchup, and this tank just feels like it does it all the time. Like, I am genuinely so astounded with how good this tank is, and how fun it is to play. It's actually just a really fun tank, and you can see here the little UFO coming to beam up the Emil 1951, because apparently it's just a bit too strong and they had to take it out of this game. But let's jump into the next one. Now you might be thinking there's no way he's going to show 2 tier 10 games, and you'd be wrong, because we have yet again another tier 10 game. This was actually the game directly after that one that we just played, and the great thing about this map, it's Abbey. It is a decent one to try and play your autoloaders on, because there's lots of opportunity to hide behind cover when you're reloading, as well as then poke around and deal damage onto unsuspecting victims. Now what I'm doing here is we are going to make a little bit of a push to try and get some damage on the people that are going to be crossing to get onto the middle of the map, if they do so make that push. And by coming down here, we can hopefully find and catch someone out before they're able to do anything, and this is the spot at which you can stop if there is anyone going up into the middle. But if there isn't, you can continually come over to this location here. Now I'm a little bit hesitant to fully push up, but at the same time we want to try and make sure we do get forward to try and find someone. Now what you see me do here is go behind this house. This house provides a little bit of cover, whilst also being able to allow us to try and get the gun elevation, which this tank doesn't really have a whole lot of, to get into this spot here. But we do have a little T-32 to try and contend with, who's making, or attempted to make, a little bit of a push, but unfortunately for him, we are not a complete bot. So what we do here, we see the T-32 fired, we then go for a, like, I don't know, a pretty terrible shot, but at the same time we can afford to do it. We have these shells in the magazine. I was hoping maybe we could get another one in. He bounces off of us, off the turret, which is fantastic, and then we pen both shells to leave him on a 1 shot. But there is one of the most annoying vehicles, and of course they've moved up so far in the AVRE, still sat in base, and of course that's a very, very dangerous tank to push up into, because it doesn't really care whether you've got armor or not. And our friend in the back chat found out that there was more than just the AVRE in the background of this game. But we found ourselves a nice little Borsig who sat out in the open, and of course we managed to track him with the first one, re-track him with the second one, and finish it another full clip off into the Borsig without him being able to even hit us back, or at least could only see the turret, and we did it all blind as well, which is fantastic too. But we have done 1700 damage so far, but there's still quite a bit of tanks in the background of this game who are kind of pushing or still sitting in their base, I guess. But we managed to get one into the AT-15. We're going for the top of the turret. Bad aim by me. Could have done with a better one there. And then we land another one there on that guy. But now we are getting YOLO'd by a Centauro 45T who is definitely thinking he is a bit of a giga. But unfortunately for him, we do have support with another autoloader in the AMX 5120, who hopefully can take either a few shots as we get pounded, or potentially he is able to actually get a few shots off into the opponents that might try and YOLO. But with us only doing 2,100 damage and the game basically looking like we've lost already, I have to start doing something, and by trying to do something I go into this position here. We're going to try and spot the middle of the map and see if we can get gun depression to hit someone. The enemy T95E6 is of course pushing our teammate in the 5120, and we need to really try and come in to help him, but unfortunately this little Centauro here is going to be a pain in my backside. He decides to ram into me, but that's fine. We can hopefully get a couple of shots off into him. We managed to hit him once. We bounced our first one. And then we try and get around the side of this guy, which we do successfully, leaving him on 76 damage, which unfortunately for us is going to be a bit of a problem because, yeah, we now have 3 tanks all coming towards us, but luckily our friend here in the Ferdinand manages to hit the little Centauro there, finishing him off. And then we use the wreck of the Centauro to try and help us out here, and then we jump off down this cliff to avoid the damage. But that allows us a little bit of time to try and get this T95E6 who actually YOLOs into me, and unfortunately we don't manage to hit the tank with enough alpha damage to finish him off, leaving him on 10 health. But we still pulled out a decent game from probably one of the most YOLO-y games I think I've seen in this vehicle. I'll be interested to see what you guys actually think about this one. And how you guys typically play this tank. Do you find it fun? Do you think it's actually terrible? Or do you think that this is actually a very, very strong tank like I do? It'd be interesting to see your thoughts in the comment section down below. I was really, really surprised with just how good this tank has been. And I knew it already, but it just reaffirmed after playing it again for another round of World of Tanks. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below what tanks you want to see next, and of course let me know what you think the new season of World of Tanks is going to be, given that we're only 12 days away at the recording of this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.